Rohi Fort, the Jinn's treasure. The Kholistan Desert was a land of whispers, where the wind carried secrets long buried beneath the dunes. The golden sands stretched endlessly in all directions, shimmering beneath the merciless sun. Travelers whispered of mirages that lured the desperate astray, of voices that echoed where no one stood, and shadows that moved against the light. But of all the stories that emerged from the desert, none was as enduring as the legend of Rohi Fort, a ruin said to be both a gateway to fortune and a trap for the unworthy, where men went in seeking treasure but never returned whole. Once, the fort had been a thriving outpost, a stronghold of kings and warlords who controlled the trade routes of the Indus Valley. But one fateful night, the ruler of the fort, Rai Umar, had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only his riches. The treasure was never found, and over the centuries, those who sought it either disappeared or returned as hollow men, their minds shattered. The locals believed the fort had fallen under the protection of jinns, who tested all who entered. Only the worthy would find the true treasure, while the greedy would never leave. The stories fascinated Sikandar Shah, but he had not come for wealth. He was a Rakwal, a guardian of the unseen, trained to walk the edge between the mortal world and that of forgotten spirits. Clutching an ancient map, he had come for whatever knowledge lay buried in the sands of time. Days earlier, in the bazaars of Bahawalpur, a traveling merchant had slipped something into his hand, a weathered map with brittle edges, its ink nearly faded.
I have heard of you, Rakwal. You chase myths like men chase gold.
Sikandar examined the map. It outlined a path, a twisted, winding trail through the heart of the desert, marked with symbols of warning.
Why give this to me?
Because the fort calls to those who listen. The greedy vanish, but you might find what even Rai Umar could not.
Then, as quickly as he had appeared, the merchant melted into the crowd, leaving behind more questions than answers. The journey through the Kholistan Desert was grueling. Each day was a battle against the desert itself, an endless expanse that tested the will of men. Sikandar rode his camel through the scorching heat of the day, where the sand rippled like molten gold and the air shimmered with heat waves, creating the illusion of water on the horizon. At night, the desert turned cold, the silence broken only by the howling wind. It was the empty darkness that unsettled him most. On the third night, as he camped near a crumbling watchtower, he felt a shift in the air. The desert grew silent, too silent. The stars above seemed to flicker, and then, out of the darkness, he heard a voice.
Turn back, Rakwal. Some doors should remain closed.
Sikandar's hand instinctively moved to the ring on his finger, the one forged by the Jinn of Shah Daula's shrine, a gift from the beings he had once freed. A soft blue glow pulsed from the ring, as if responding to the unseen presence. Something had tried to test him already, but whatever spirit sought to dissuade him, it would not prevail tonight. He had come too far to turn back. And then, as the first light of dawn kissed the horizon, Rohi Fort emerged like a ghost from the sands. The walls, once towering, now stood crumbling, and the entrance was nearly consumed by shifting dunes. The desert itself seemed reluctant to let Sikandar in. The fort's once majestic gates were half buried in sand, and its walls bore the scars of time, with vines creeping through the cracks. Sikandar dismounted his camel and approached the entrance, his talwar strapped to his side. The air grew still as he neared, as though the desert itself was holding its breath. He could feel the faint hum of supernatural energy, a warning that the jinns were aware of his presence. The moment Sikandar crossed the threshold, something in the air changed. The ruins breathed. The air was heavy, charged with an unseen force, something old, something hungry. The stones themselves whispered. There was a huge urn of gemstone in front of him.
You deserve what you find. Take it and leave now. This is yours.
As temptation took hold, Sikandar's fingers twitched. The pull was real. It was the essence of Rohi fort itself, a curse woven into its very bones, meant to stoke greed.
No, I will not.
He was here for truth. He had to resist. Inside, the fort walls bore strange carvings, old yet untouched by time. Sikandar stepped cautiously through the archways. Sand had invaded every corner, piling up against walls and filling rooms that had once echoed with life. The air grew heavier, not with dust, but with something unseen. As Sikandar entered what had once been the main hall, the walls began to shimmer and the world shifted. Suddenly, he was no longer in the ruins of the fort, but standing in the middle of a lush green oasis, surrounded by crystal clear, cool water and trees heavy with fruit.
The desert is cruel to men like you. Drink, quench your thirst, traveler, and rest your weary body. You deserve it.
The heat ached in his bones. His throat was dry as dust. The water glistened, cool, inviting. Sikandar knelt by the water, his fingers hovering above the surface, but he knew better than to trust the illusion. It took all his strength to resist it. He looked closely at the water and could see jagged rocks and a bottomless pit disguised by the mirage, waiting to swallow him whole.
You test me. I'm not here for rest or comfort.
He said, rising to his feet.
Show me the truth, not deceit.
The illusion shattered. The oasis turned to dust.
You are wise to resist. Continue, if you dare.
As Sikandar navigated the fort, he encountered more tests. In a narrow corridor, the walls began to close in on him, threatening to crush him. He quickly noticed an inscription carved into the stone. Patience is the path to survival. Trusting the riddle, Sikandar stood his ground, his breath steady, and the walls stopped just inches from his shoulders before retreating. Deeper inside, the passage opened into a vast chamber of gold. Jewels, coins, and ornate treasures glittered beneath an eerie light. Half buried in the gold lay skeletal hands, the remains of those who had succumbed to greed.
Take it.
Sikandar's fingers twitched. A single coin, just one, would be nothing, would it?
Take it. This is your reward.
The hunger pressed in. He could take one coin. Just one. Would it matter? His fingers brushed a ruby. The moment they did, his ring began to glow. A warning. Sikandar yanked his hand back.
I seek knowledge, not wealth.
The chamber shuddered. The gold withered to dust. The air shifted again, and the voice spoke again.
You show restraint, mortal. Few have made it this far, but you must answer the question to proceed.
Sikandar stepped into a moonlit hall. Its high ceiling cracked and open to the sky, its walls carved with forgotten histories. At the center of the room stood a glowing pedestal, empty except for an inscription etched into its surface. The words shimmered as Sikandar read them aloud.
To those who seek, I demand. What is treasure when given by hand? What is truth when it cannot be seen? Avatri, what is power when neither cruel nor mean?
Sikandar paced the room, the words turning over in his mind. The Jinns were testing his understanding of value, of truth and humility. Suddenly, the ground beneath him began to rumble, and a deep, ominous voice called out to him.
You think you are worthy? Then answer, if you can.
Sikandar steadied himself. His ring glowed as he felt it subconsciously for support. He thought deeply, then he spoke.
Treasure, when given, is wisdom shared freely. Truth, though unseen, is faith in what is right. Power without cruelty is the courage to do what must be done.
A deep silence followed, and for a moment, Sikandar feared he had failed. Then the air grew warm, and the pedestal began to glow. The voice returned. this time filled with respect.
You have answered well, Seeker. You are not like the others. Go take what is yours.
Sikandar had passed yet another test, this time of wit. The pedestal slid aside, revealing a staircase leading down into the heart of the fort. Sikandar descended cautiously, the faint glow of his talwar lighting the way. At the bottom, he found a hidden library, a room filled with ancient scrolls, books, and artifacts untouched by time. The air was thick with the scent of parchment and old ink, and Sikandar's heart quickened. Among the treasures were maps of forgotten lands, accounts of battles long erased from history, and writings on the relationship between humans and the Jinn. These were the true treasures of Rohi Fort, not gold or jewels, but knowledge that could bridge the mortal and spiritual worlds. But as he reached for the first scroll, the air darkened. A presence, something old, something angry, rose from the shadows. A Jinn unlike the others. The ring of the Jinn pulsed on Sikandar's finger.
You have come far, mortal. You have resisted where others have fallen. You have wisdom where others had only greed.
The shadows stirred, and from behind the Jinn, she appeared. A beautiful woman, dressed in flowing silks, stepped forward. Her eyes shimmered like moonlight on water, her lips curled into a smile that could tame storms.
Take her, my daughter, as your wife. She will bring you the wealth of this fort and the power of my kind.
Sikandar's breath hitched. Never had he seen such beauty, never had he been offered so much, but the ring on his finger burned cold, a warning.
By the pact of old, by the bond unbroken, I cannot marry your daughter. I am bound to my duty as a Rakwal. Riches do me no good. A union that is not meant to be will shatter the balance between the seen and unseen worlds. My fate is my own, and it does not lie in the wealth of this fort. Silence. Then, laughter, low, resonant, filled with amusement, and something deeper, approval. The Jinn raised its hand, shadows swirling around the chamber.
A key to doors unseen. A gift for a Rakwal worthy of it.
As Sikandar carefully packed a few scrolls into his satchel, the voice of the Jinn spoke one last time.
You have proven yourself worthy, Seeker. Take only what you need and leave the rest undisturbed. Our bond with this place remains, but you carry our respect.
The air shifted, the darkness lifted. He had found the true treasure of Rohi Fort. As Sikandar emerged from the fort, the first light of dawn touched the sand. The fort, once ominous and foreboding, now seemed serene, its secrets safe once more. He mounted his camel and began his journey back, the ancient texts in his possession a reminder of the power of wisdom over greed. The legend of Rohi Fort would endure, and Sikandar would safeguard its truth for future generations. His journey was far from over, but this adventure had reinforced what he had always known. The greatest treasures were not gold or riches, but something far more valuable: knowledge, restraint, and understanding. And so, the last Rakwal ventured forth, ready for the next tale that awaited him in the shadows of history.